Hi, folks. Mark Forstell here.
Good evening.
Alex,
Hello, we are just waiting for the official YouTube to be live, and then we will start. Typically, we will go down the agenda per the chairman's order. So hang on one second, everybody. Then we're all set to go, Chairman.
okay, Kenny, Peter's got the flag up on the, you want to do the
Right.
pledge?
If you can pay attention to Peter Trzynski's flag, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One
one
nation.
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you have your cell phones on, if you can mute them, please.
Okay, let's take a look at our minutes for the last meeting. Let's take a look at the public hearing minutes first for February 2nd, 2021, which was 3 Nash Place. Anybody have any items on the minutes to adjust?
This is what was listed.
I do have a couple,
Yep,
Mr. Chairman.
yep,
Just, excuse me. At the end of the paragraph, it says Mr. Hitchcock is seeking public comment. It's actually the planning commission is seeking it.
yep,
And then on the second page, second paragraph,
yep.
second line begins driveways.
There is.
What?
There is no.
Oh, there's no, yeah, thank you. There's no state code. Then just continuing down.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Fourth line begins that the requirements for a driveway must be 12 feet. And it needs to have 13 feet of vertical clearance.
Oh, vertical?
Yeah,
Needs to
vertical
be-
clearance. So just strike in the proposed driveway has 13 feet of clearance and it just say, and must have at least 13 feet of vertical clearance.
Yep.
And then the last sentence, it begins village code only identifies the minimum driveway width of 12 feet. It does not identify a maximum.
Yep.
And then the following paragraph, 1, 2, third line, just strike for a property with 20 feet of frontage.
Where are you, Ron?
I am on the third paragraph on the second page.
Okay,
The last line begins for a property with 20 feet of frontage. I would just strike those words completely. So the sentence will read, Mr. Hitchcock stated the minimum driveway width is 12 feet, which is what is being proposed.
Okay. All right, Alex, you have all those?
Yes.
Good. Anybody, anything else? Okay, I have a motion.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the public hearing of Nash Place on February 2nd, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Anybody opposed? Okay. The board meeting, again, February 2nd, 2021. The regular meeting. First applicant with 1770 Central Avenue. Anyone, any issues?
You do, Mr. Chairman. It's just, I recommend that wherever it says grease traps, the term be changed to grease dumpsters.
Correct.
Several locations.
Yep, right,
That's all I had.
yep.
And why did we strike out 3 grease dumpsters?
Where is it, Cheddar?
Second page.
Yep.
second paragraph, struck out 3 grease dumpsters.
That was John's
There
suggestion.
are only 2 dumpsters left. They removed, they said that Mo's doesn't need one.
Okay, but there was 3 when we had the meeting.
Yeah, but there are a total of 3.
Okay.
There's
well,
only 2 now.
There's only one now.
Yeah,
They had 2 barrels back there.
All right, so that section is in or out?
That's in.
All right, okay. I got lines running through a lot of stuff, so that's in there, okay. That was my only question on that one also, so. 16, Petra?
I didn't have anything.
On page, Alex, on page 2, 3, page 3, this paragraph on top, the second line down says 2,500 square foot storage, should be space instead of place. All right, next paragraph down, Mr. Huffman explained that the application was previously denied due to the variance requirement. Just adding a 2 in there. And the last line of that was the, let's see, commercial D zone and the nature of the project will not have a negative impact on the surrounding area. Just slide the not in there. That's all I have. Anybody else?
Wait a minute, Chris, on that, when you said not have a negative impact, why would it would have a negative impact on the surrounding area as opposed to positive?
John, I believe the statement is not doing an EAF. It's saying
No.
the commercial D zone and the nature of the project will not have a negative impact on the surrounding. It was in their narrative that it won't have a impact.
This is Mr. Hoffman's statement.
Yeah, it's his
Okay.
statement. So basically saying it's not going to have an impact. So it's not an EAF statement. So,
All right, I mean, it just
All right.
reads, if it was not have a negative impact, would imply it has a positive impact.
No, that's not true, John.
Okay,
the way it reads now, John, it says it will have a negative impact on the surrounding areas. Not true.
okay,
It should say what you said, Chris.
Yep.
okay.
Not.
Yeah, it's not like the AAF, John. It was the statement. Okay, anybody,
Okay.
anything else? Okay, got a motion?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of Tuesday, February 2nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
yes.
Was there anybody opposed? Okay, let's go to 3 Nash Place. Where we left off with this, I believe, John, you were going to review an EAF?
Yes, I did. And I make a motion based upon what was submitted to approve the EAF as having no adverse final impact.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Victor, what we need to do now, if there's no more discussion, we can act on this.
Correct.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve the subdivision of 3 Nash Place. Any other additional information needed?
I believe not. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone
No,
opposed?
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 Jim and John, correct?
Yes.
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 Okay, you have the numbers for it, Alex?
Yes. Motion passes.
Okay. Going on to 8 Petra. Okay, do we have the applicant here?
My name is Mark Forstel. I'll be acting as the applicant for the New York area, yes.
All right. Would you like to run us down through your application? What the use, explain the use, and we can all be looking at the site plan for it.
Okay, as listed in the narrative provided by Mr. Williamson of Oakesville, Ontario. Spark Power Corp. Space that's going to be located at 8 Petrol Lane is going to be the New York branch office for Spark Power. And this office will primarily be focused on providing operations and maintenance contracts and services to large scale solar and energy storage systems throughout New York and expanding, beyond. As I said, it's just a branch office, so it's not a retail business at all. It's basically, for starters, will be operated by one employee, will be myself, to manage inventory that will come and go for system replacements, upgrades, repairs throughout the district, the Northeast region. So it'd be, very little front door traffic, if any, very little parking. For starters, and it may grow to be a 2 to 3 full-time employees occupying that office space, with deliveries coming and going at usual business hours, weekdays, again, for replacement parts as needed.
Okay, so on the application, the parking that you put down for the applicant is that 6 then that? required by zoning?
Six, I believe Taylor did provide as a high end number. That would be
Yep.
very rare.
Okay,
Most of the time would be most of the time would be 1 to 3 vehicles
Max.
parked there
Yep,
during business hours, and really that's the only business that would be there would be during
Yep.
business hours.
okay. On the floor plan that's in the submission, is there 2 spaces, or is it it's highlighted an office area, and then it's yellow highlighted another section next to it?
Yes, there is an office area that will be utilized as such with a 2 small offices for planning and meeting. There will be a small conference type room for dispatching texts as they come and go.
Yep.
And then the large portion of the rear portion, I can't remember the orientation of the building,
Yeah.
but the rear of it with the large overhead door is a large warehouse space that will provide industrial racking, again, for the parts and services that will be deployed and received
Yep.
to and from that,
Yep.
branch
Okay,
office.
so the 558 office space is the one that shows 2 office spaces on it?
Yes,
And
that is accurate. Yep.
and the 2592 is the warehouse itself.
Yes, that is accurate. Yep, with a 24-foot ceiling, I believe.
All right. Anybody have questions?
Any outside storage?
Negative.
Do you have any large deliveries coming in? Tractor
There-
trailers, things like that?
On a very rare occasion, there will be, some of the equipment that does accommodate rather large solar farms and things that will be, hopefully becoming more popular throughout the country and the region. Yes, we would need a large delivery trucks, but this would be few and far between, not a daily, not even a weekly, hard to predict, when a large piece of equipment that would require an actual 18-wheeler roll through. I would say, yes, it can happen, but it would be rather rare. Most equipment would come through basic UPS type delivery truck.
RJ, we've got the turning radius shown on there, correct?
Ron is muted.
Mhm. This is
There we
bad.
go. There we go. Sorry about
There
that.
we go.
Um, There are turning movements on that plan, Chris, showing that the vehicle can get around the building, yes.
Yep. So. Okay, as for the site, this site, my opinion is maintained extremely well, so I don't have any issues on the landscaping or anything, so. Anybody have anything else?
Nope.
I
No,
do not.
Is there a unit number for this, or is it just 8?
I know it to be 8AA, that's 8AA.
Yeah,
And
correct.
if someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
Okay, anybody will make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Spark Power Corporation for 8 Petra Unit AA.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Was anybody opposed? Okay, very good.
Welcome to the village.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Have a good
Thanks,
night,
guys.
and ladies. Good night.
Good catch.
Okay, let me get my stack here and get these out of the way. Okay, next is 1586 Central Avenue, DePaula Car Dealership. And would be representing them?
Mr. Chairman, Frank Palumbo with CT Mail Associates.
Okay. There was a, I believe there must have been a engineer's review letter and there's response to these. Is that correct? If you could run us through the project if you would, Frank.
Sure. As you saw at the last meeting we attended, this is basically a site plan modification to bring in a new dealership, making some floor and facade adjustments to the building, but the site plan is primarily consistent with what was there when it dated back to the original Progressive building. Subsequently, it was made into a car dealership use by DePaula, and they're looking to expand that with a new brand. The only additive that we had to the site plan was the parking spaces that are immediately towards the front of the building, which, Mr. Chairman, you had brought up landscaping in the front at the last meeting. And I believe your words were that you thought we had enough there as it was. We intend to leave what's there. Where we're putting the parking spaces didn't require any removal of the landscaping. So that'll stay as is. We addressed Ron's firm's comments and received another letter just recently. One of the original comments was to identify where we had parking spaces that were for service area, for where new vehicles were to be on the lot. And we provided that, and we missed one thing, and Ron's guys caught it for us, that we hadn't shown any employee spaces. So we did send a plan to Alex today that shows 10 employee parking spaces back to the right-hand side of the building as you come into the site, in the back, almost, back across from where the service area is. So thank you, Alex. So right in the center top of that sheet, if you can, Alex, if you can show right So along the top row of parking there, in the center is where we've added some employee parking. But all the others, and members of the board had this comment as well, where we were showing the cars, and that was shown on the plan that we last submitted for this final set. We also added some notes to the plan reflecting what some of the board members had brought up at the last meeting, such as no servicing will be done outside of the building. The doors will be maintained in a closed position when cars are being serviced, and the reduction of the lighting levels in the evening hours when the dealership is closed and not needed. So we added those notes where those were some of the things that came up at the last board meeting. I think we've addressed everything, but I'm open to hearing any questions that the board members may have.
Before the board members, RJ, could you kind of attest to the changes and so forth?
Yeah, I know that our letter only mentioned, excuse me, the employee parking. But actually, now that I'm looking at it again, it only lists 4 customer parking spaces and they're all handicap spaces. So I guess I should have questioned the number of 4 actually for customer spaces. That seems pretty light. So that's
I think, Ron, I think we can, RJ, we probably should have added some of those in the near the front of the property. That's where everyone comes in on either the direct front or the 2 side doors. The service parking is for customers who are obviously coming in for service, but we could add a few up at the upper right hand side of there. Typically, you don't have that many customers coming at one time to the auto dealership. So if we added 5 customer slots up there, I think that would be adequate. And we could post them as such if that was a condition of the plan.
So Chris, that was the only comment that I saw remaining.
Okay.
Other than actually, I'll bring it up since we talked about it today a little bit. Is you were looking for a dimension between the new parking spaces and up front and the front property line, right?
Right. Frank, would you know what that distance is? At the last meeting, I kind of requested from the new vehicle spaces to the property line, what that dimension was.
You did, and I remember that, and I apologize that we don't have it directly shown on there. There is a dimension line. I'm just not seeing the dimension on it from the corner of the building. It's a little faded on this sheet. Alex, I don't know if you can zoom in on that.
I notice, this is Victor, that from the property line, there's a shaded line that goes from the property line in the front to the building, and it says 41 plus or minus feet, which doesn't seem right.
Yeah,
because
that'll be 141, Victor, that the one is really kind of hidden underneath
It's
there.
obscured, yes.
Yep.
Now it makes more sense. Okay.
Right. So if that's 141, the parking bays are 18 feet deep. The drive aisle is another 25. So you have 40 feet there, and then I'm going to say another 20. So you're looking at about 60 feet from the building to the parking. So if we had 141, we're looking at possibly, let's say it's 75 to 80 feet from that, from the parking to the property line.
I think when I had taken an engineering scale to the large scale drawing you'd given us, I came up with 78 feet.
Okay.
I trust your use of that, and my math was close.
So if the board so chooses to act on this, I have no problem with us approving and not stamping until we actually have that dimension on there. And the 5 employee parking spots to the right-hand side of the entrance as you come in. So, all right, the couple of
Employee, customer. Employee parking or customer parking?
customer, thanks,
Okay,
Peter.
yes.
I had a couple other items. Again, our code has reference to no overhead doors to the front of a building that it's going into a service area. I kind of see this as a write-up area. Is that right, Frank?
Yes, it is.
Yep. Okay, so we've had that before in dealerships in the village, so it's not directly into the service area. Okay. We talked about the dimension already. The other thing is we were asking that you would show us colors on your elevation, the actual colors of the building. I've got a black and white drawing. Am I going by labels on here or anything? What?
I think our 8.5 by 11 submission materials had some elevational images
Yep.
and with the colors on them.
Okay. RJ, do you have a full file? Do you have that, or Alex?
I have all electronic. I don't have a color rendering.
Yeah.
I didn't see it in my packet, the color rendering.
Have the existing colors, which was Progressive, it wasn't DePaula at that point.
Yep.
My apologies. I thought we had submitted that with the plans. Because we had done, we took the image of what it looks like now and then what the image of the new improvements from the same angle. I did notice earlier that although his set probably would have been black and white, I noticed that Steve Maservi was on the line. And I know that they reviewed the building plans and that we had the materials identified there. So I apologize. I thought that was included in the set.
I have not seen it.
No, I haven't seen.
I just have black and white.
Is there anywhere that they would actually be labeled, Frank, that we can? I mean, if I'm looking on here and I find that there's grays and so forth, I know I'm not getting chartreuse or anything.
Yeah, no hot pink or nothing.
There's an exterior finish schedule on the elevation drawing, Chris.
Okay.
And it says chartreuse, bright orange, hot pink.
RJ, what number is the plan?
So exterior finishes, it's
It's called the sales building elevations.
A201.
A201, yeah.
The colors are all listed there.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. White, black.
Really exciting colors.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Snowbank, Flagstone, Licorice. The only one I couldn't put a number to would be what the heck Whirlwind is, but I guess we don't have, unless the board has issues with them, I think they're acceptable colors, I would think.
You want, Chris, would you want the applicant just to, I mean, they have to make some plan changes, just have them submit the color rendering? And just, not that they would need to, not to hold up an approval, but it just could be something that you could look at quickly and say, okay, yeah, this what I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, we plan on being able to stamp these after we have those clarifications. So I guess if anybody wants to make a motion, they can put that into their motion as to what would we be receiving. I'll leave that up for discussion. Anybody and thoughts?
I got a question. Did I miss it somewhere? What kind of dealership is this gonna be?
You did not miss that. We weren't at liberty to disclose the dealership yet. That is part of the agreement of us, getting site plan that will trigger the contract, and we'd be able to make that announcement.
Well, agreement with who? With the village or?
No, with the dealership. Yeah, the dealership,
So it could
and
be
the
tractor
owner has
trailer
been-
It's
sales.
gonna be, yeah, vehicles, not tractor trailers or trucks or vans.
Yes,
I
it's
think-
all vehicles.
I would think that prior to any approval, you're gonna want to know who it is.
I'll second that.
My understanding, this was Mazda.
That's right.
That's what I thought.
It's not gonna be Maserati anymore, right? That's going?
It is not going to be Maserati, and I can't confirm that it's Mazda.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to know what it is before I say yes to anything. Or no, for that matter.
That is what we would typically do.
Could say that your statement wasn't far off.
Okay.
It could already be in the application materials.
I thought I saw that already.
Me too.
Aside from all that, I still have a minor question.
Yep.
The last plans that we have stamped supposedly is when we had Progressive. So then we went from Progressive to Maserati, and now we're going to an unknown dealership. And we're going to be stamping his plans. And as far as I'm concerned, this is going to be the final set that's going to be approved for the site. And I'd like to see a lighting plan, and I'd like to see a landscape plan. Even though the chairman said he thought the landscaping was fine, I would like to see documentation as to what's there. So if and when it dies or some other catastrophe happens, we know what we're replacing it with. So before I can say yes to the whole site plan, I'd like to see a complete package.
Hey, John, I was thinking about that myself, and what I was going to suggest is that since only very distinct elements here have been modified, right? The building essentially has not expanded beyond the original roof line, right? Because they were
Correct.
canopies and everything else. So the only real change to this site plan is the parking in the front. And what I was going to suggest is that any approval just stipulate that all the aspects of the previous approval are here and incorporated.
Yep.
In terms of the lighting and the landscaping and everything else, except as they obviously would be affected by these improvements.
Yes, and we think that is the case, that the landscaping, the lighting has not changed. We did not need to alter the site to remove anything. So it is as it had been approved previously.
Yeah, but historically, whenever we've gone through a number of changes of ownerships and things like that, we've said, okay, we want a final set of site plans that represent the site as is and not have to go piecemealing back and forth the old plans to find out what's there.
Correct,
The-
John.
The last approved, John, you had made a statement, the last approved drawings we have that are stamped was Progressive.
I believe so, because we didn't do anything for the Maserati.
I can double check because I do believe we have stamped plans for Maserati. But unfortunately, I'm not in the office to confirm that right now.
Yeah.
We probably did because I believe there were some changes based on display vehicle locations, et cetera. I mean, Progressive didn't have any of that stuff.
Mhm.
We can, on the plans that we would be submitting for stamping, they're on the existing conditions plan. We can highlight them and show what's there. We are neither adding nor taking out anything that I know of. I mean, I believe we've left every light pole in place and everything that was the landscaping at the time in place.
So if the existing condition plan was submitted with this, it would have the exact same footprint for all the structure, even though you're infilling. And it would have all the landscaping, the lighting, so forth, correct?
Yes.
John, we would you would want to see those as put together with in this set, right? Just a copy
I
of that.
I believe that's where we need to be. We need to have an updated set that reflects everything instead of having to go back to different plans for different things. And if everything's the same, they should be able to take those plans and overlay them and put them in this package, and then we have a complete set.
Yeah.
I mean, we forced that for other people to do that.
Yeah, I'm the opinion they can really just add those to the set, the existing condition, and this plan has got the it's got the changes of the 9 spaces and the highlighted area that it's infilling with the space. So how how would we look at proceeding with this? We know what we're looking for. Vic,
I say wait till we get everything.
Mhm.
Chris, Danny Judge,
Yep.
are you looking for additional comments?
Yes.
Okay, I got 2. One, I got an email on 2/12, and the subject was additional information, 1586 Central Avenue, DePaula, Mazda. That was on the email, right? So I was assuming it was Mazda also. Now, my second question is, the previous applicant, we restricted where people could test drive their vehicles. We were trying not to put traffic on secondary roads. And we requested them to give us a planned route that they could use for test driving their vehicles. Are we going to put that same restriction on this dealership?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, Dan, if that was submitted as a drawing or in narrative form.
I believe it was narrative, but I can't remember. I just know that we put a restriction on them that we didn't, because it was a high-class vehicle, and we were concerned they'd be speeding on side streets. And we wanted them to, they gave us a route. It was the Northway, Central Avenue, and a couple other roads. But I'm just curious if we're going to put the same restrictions on this applicant as we did the previous.
I would recommend it.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the recommendation, I don't know if it was doing a narrative or not, or it could again be another note that's placed on the drawing like all the others he has placed here.
It's obviously something we can do, and we can find the map that was done. I think there is a difference between what people were asking for the Maserati and the, I don't know if you've asked the same thing of the other dealerships down the road. That's something that you typically ask for, but I think it is a standard dealership. It is not one such as, I recall those comments of the Maserati being that people thought they were going to be not just going down those roads, but speeding down those roads, as you just said, Mr.
Well, I think it was more than that, Frank. I think it was like we want to keep them off the residential streets. Test drive Central Avenue, the Northway, all those things, but we don't need them going through the neighborhoods.
That was my feeling.
We can note that, as the chairman was saying. I don't know that a plan is something that would be able to be, we can have a plan for the test drives are always done with someone in the vehicle. So those
Could you provide a narrative?
Control and tell
narrative on what your plans are? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Just provide a narrative.
Yeah, a note on the plan.
I would suggest a note on the plan.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
And I think that's what the other ones, it just said there wasn't any village-owned, no vehicle demonstration was on village-owned streets.
Frank, my experience is, and I've represented a number of dealerships along Central, is a narrative is required. You put it on the plan where the test drives are going, and therefore it's on the plan. It's part of the approval, and it can be looked at easily by any potential problems in the future. So that's the way to go.
we'll add that to the plan.
All right, so it appears to me, and correct me as I try to recollect all these things. We're looking at for customer parking labeled, dimension setback. We're looking to have the existing lighting and landscaping submitted. This note on traffic and the colors shown to us or given to us.
Yeah, and Whirlwind, Chris, is a soft gray color with a touch of purple.
Thank you, Cheddar.
There you go.
Thank God for Google.
Yes.
All right,
exactly.
Frank, I assume all the things that I just rattled off, you have written down.
I've written them down. If I missed any, Alex probably had them, and
okay.
and then we'd confirm our notes and make sure that
Okay.
when we send in the plans that they have everything
Okay.
on.
What I would request is that these plans, just to make sure, if you could put them in LaBerge's hands, they can be checked, and so that we definitely know we have everything we're requesting, so that we can act on this. I think the board members are looking at this being acted on the next meeting, Frank.
Okay.
The number of items we have.
Okay.
So please get this over to LaBerge Engineering, and we can make sure, or bring it through Alex. Alex can distribute it either way, and so that we know you have everything on there.
And the next meeting is March 2nd?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and board members, anything additional? Is that everything that?
Who the dealership is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Chris, yeah, who's the dealership?
Okay.
I'll get authorization.
At the next meeting, is the applicant gonna be present or just you, Frank?
I've been asked to be at the meetings if there was, Susan DePaula didn't know how, well she'd be functioning in a Zoom meeting. So she asked us to do that for her. If it's necessary, I will ask her.
Well, the last time Maserati was there was a person that worked for Maserati. I think she was a CFO at the time. So she had answers to any of our questions other than a professional answer. She was the owner's representative. She knew what was was going on.
I understand that. There have been changes with the dealership since Tony DePaula's passing. But I will ask, my client is Susan DePaula and the DePaula Auto Group. I will ask her if somebody can be in attendance.
That will be able to answer any questions if we have them.
Okay, is that everybody? Have anything else?
Nothing.
That's it for me.
Good.
Okay, as I stated, Frank, if you can get those over, just so we make sure that we have everything on there for the next meeting, so we can, hopefully it'll be put to bed. All right?
Okay,
All right, thanks.
thank you.
Okay, 1560 Central Avenue, Stewart's Shop. Okay. Before you start with the presentation, RJ, the drawings submitted are a submission for,
I'm calling these preliminary site plans,
okay,
preliminary site plan approval.
all right. And is the applicant here ready to proceed?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tyler Fronte here from Stewart Shops tonight.
Yep.
Can everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
Perfect. So I'll just go through what we're proposing, and then I'll pass over to the board with any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. So what we're proposing, the project site is at 1560 Central Avenue, which is an existing gas station Gulf, as well as a vacant commercial office warehouse building formerly occupied by the Ski Instructors of America. They since vacated the premises and relocated. So that structure is now vacant. What we're proposing is a new store shop, roughly 3,975 square feet with self-service gasoline. We have access points on Central Avenue, a right in, right out, and a full access movement on Lincoln Avenue. In terms of the exterior of the building, we have stone veneer at the base, hardy board siding, and shingled roofing. At this location, we'll be able to offer our fresh, locally sourced products, expand some of our grocery items and our food to go items. So as you can see, we have parking around the building on both sides. We have a main entrance that is parallel to the canopy. And we have seating outside for customers. And the site is landscaped as well. In the plan set, Mr. LaBerge submitted a couple of comments to us regarding the plan submitted. And we have sent a response letter over, and I guess I'll pass it to the board to ask any questions at this point.
Okay. I know there was, our engineer has done a pretty extensive review of it, and RJ, I would like to have you, if the board's okay with that, having run down through your issues and your points that were made. And then we'll, again, get comments from the board.
Okay. And everybody should have my comments, right? Everybody got them in the packet, right? Alex?
Yep.
Yes, they did.
So, oh, by the way, did you get a chance to send? Whoops. There you go. So anyway, there's a few approvals this project will need. They're listed there, planning commission site plans. Since the gas station, obviously, there's going to be a special permit, and that application was submitted as well. Village water sewer permit, DOT work permit for work out in the right of way, potentially a SWIP that's supposed to say just disturbance dependent, not department, and Albany County Planning Board. Referrals required for this. So just looking at this.
RJ, Danny, on those approvals, permits required, are they going to sell lottery tickets? Do they need that approval?
I'm assuming that they're going to need the liquor license approval for selling their beer and whatever other approvals. So the list are more the regulatory in terms of for a site plan, Dan, and they need other ones for their business, which I believe they list on their application.
I looked at their application. They didn't list it. That's why I'm asking you.
Oh,
Page 7, question 12. Are any license required to run your business? And they just said liquor license. And I just thought they need a.
I don't think we need to worry about that right now.
Well, I mean, for the application, I'd like it to look true.
Yeah.
By shooting a
I
gun.
should be able to answer that question.
Okay.
Yes, we will be needing a lottery license as well. That wasn't added to the application, but will be. And I'll resubmit that for next.
Thank you. Thank you.
So some of my comments are minor, other ones are a little more significant. There's a sewer easement that goes across the front of the site. I mean, to show the sewer, just need to show the easement. Building setbacks that are shown on the plan, and I'm not sure if I was misunderstanding the plan, but the building setbacks are from the property line to any projection off the building. So my understanding there's some extension to the roof, et cetera here that would adjust those. It doesn't look like it's a problem from a zoning standpoint. It would just need to be corrected. The couple condensing units at the rear of the building, they do face the residence. We're just suggesting they be moved or some type of sound attenuation be provided. The applicant had proposed landscaping, but that really doesn't do anything for noise attenuation. Let's see here. So this is a site plan / landscaping. I'm suggesting that parking spaces 30 and 31, which are in the front right corner of the site, closest to the intersection with Lincoln Avenue and Central, that they be removed and additional green space be provided there. As you can see, that's very close to the property line, and it doesn't really permit any kind of landscaping. I mean, it's all pretty much DOT right away at that point. So they're not going to allow plantings out there. So that's a suggestion on my part to kind of make that corner look a little nicer, since it is, since it is a nice corner. Parking spaces. Just in terms of the relationship of the drive aisles, I just need the applicant to verify, not right now, but that there's 24-foot drive aisles between the canopy and the parallel parking across the front of the site. It doesn't appear to be, but I don't want to make that a definitive statement. I will stand corrected, but that would need to be shown on the plan.
Ron,
Yes.
Ron, I will add that to the plan. So those dimensions, but just so you know, they're 22 feet from the parallel parking spaces to the canopy.
22 feet. So, okay.
Yep.
We need 24 for two-way driveways.
Okay.
And, just, from experience, I know that a vehicle basically almost take up all that space under the canopy, particularly, guys like me with the pickup trucks.
Pick them up good.
Right. And then the end of the parking spaces to the canopy is 30 feet. So that's the other dimension, but I will add that on the plan.
Yeah, okay. This was suggested earlier. I still think it's a good suggestion of angling these pumps. The reason I'm suggesting that is that if there's nobody waiting to fuel, it's not an issue. Everybody can be at a pump. But if anybody's waiting to come in behind another person, you're basically taking up all the drive aisle. There's no good way to get into the pump. So if they were actually just rotated, I'm going to say counterclockwise, so on an angle, I think it would make it much easier for customers to get in and out of the spaces. And and Tyler, I'm just going to point to the one you have up in Wilton. I'm in and out of that one all the time. Talking about the one at exit 15. It's almost the same exact setup here, except that I think that's a bigger site. And it works very well. So I really think a lot of consideration should be given to that, because otherwise there's no queue space at all for a pump.
I understand. I agree.
Next comment has to do with Lincoln Avenue curb cut. It's pretty wide, and it's wide because the applicant's proposing to bring their fuel trucks in that way, and they need that to make the turn in. I guess I'm suggesting that the fuel trucks come in from Central Avenue and exit on Lincoln. That way that curb can be reduced. Curb cut on Lincoln can be reduced a little bit. Plus, as shown on the truck moving plan, I forgot which plan exactly that is. They need all of Central Avenue to exit the site. They're going to need, I say all of Central Avenue, all the eastbound lanes are going to get blocked by a fuel truck leaving the site. So I would prefer to see them leave the site on Lincoln and use the light to get onto Central Avenue. And then just kind of associate with that, how the fuel delivery will work, where the truck will sit, how will other cars get in and out. Because where the fuel fill area there, which is located on the Lincoln Avenue side, the truck's gonna obviously be near those. And how, just how will people get around that fueling truck? Those were the basic site plans. One of the issue that some of these are minor, 6 inches for a sewer lateral. But one item that Tyler, I apologize for not even bringing this up before, is that the village has been requiring properties on this side of Central Avenue to extend 12-inch water main across the front of it. There's a 10-inch main on the other side. Our system is pretty well taxed, and so there's been an effort to extend 12-inch water line on this side of Central Avenue. So I've been working with Les Decker of the Department of Public Works, and he concurs that this would be appropriate here. They connect the line in Lincoln Avenue and extend over to the westerly property line of the proposed Stewarts. That'll require an easement, of course. I think as far as sanitary tower, we're going to need a statement from Stewart Shops indicating exactly what it is they prepare there. This has to goes to the issue. From what I know about Stewart Shops, it doesn't seem like you need a grease trap, doing frying and things like that. But we just need a positive statement about what you prepare there. And what else? Stormwater, actually not a lot. They're doing subsurface detention on the site, which is great. They are treating it before it discharges to the Lincoln Avenue storm sewer. So that doesn't appear to be any issue there. The only grading and drainage issue I had was behind the Stewarts at the, bear with me while I try to expand this a little bit. There's a little storage area at the rear of the building. The drainage there is currently directed actually over towards where the dumpster is proposed to be. There's a low spot there with a drain. And now some of that area is being directed to the residents. So they need to look at that and make sure we're not pushing any water over onto the neighbor. It's not a big area, but it's enough to probably make a pretty good complaint. And really, that's it. Whether they need to prepare a SWIP for this or not is going to be dependent on the actual area of disturbance. We would just ask that they show that on their next plan. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, I'll ask the board members. I have some comments too. And the rest of the board members, do you have questions you'd like to entertain? And
I got a question on the size.
Well, hey, Chris, you might want to just go around the table.
yeah, Kenny, you want to start?
Yeah, Tyler, what can we compare this size to any of the existing ones? Is there any that are the same size?
Yeah, in terms of building size, you're saying, or lot size as a whole?
Lot size.
I would say it's similar to Fuller Road. That's kind of the newest design I can think of. Fuller Road's a little bit larger land area, but overall it's the same look.
All right. What about lot size?
Lot size, I would say our shop in Elnora in Clifton Park is similar.
Is that off exit 10 or something like that?
9.
Exit 9?
Yep, I can.
Where are we?
I can provide the board. I'm sorry, I can provide the board with some drawings if that's helpful.
Well, what's the address of the one in Clifton Park? If I'm going north on exit 9, left or right?
Take a left, you head west.
Okay.
I don't know the address off the top of my head, but I can find out.
Yeah. Tyler, is that right on the new the roundabout?
That's correct.
All right,
So,
I'll find it.
yeah, you can't miss that, Ken. You'll run
Yeah.
right into the roundabout. It's right
Yeah.
on it.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right down through 'em. No specific order. Dan, I got you on here.
Chris, I got nothing, but I just got a comment I'd like to say. New construction, I'd like people to come in the village thinking ahead. And I would like them, it's nothing to do with our planning board, but charging vehicles. If we had people thinking about putting a charging station in any new construction down the road, it would just be a better village. I'm not asking to put anything on the planning board. I'm just planting the seed in the developer's head that they might want to put an electric charging station in their vehicle, in their facility. That's all.
Okay.
And thank you for listening.
Jim?
Nothing right now.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm probably going to show my ignorance, but there is a 2 or 3 foot difference in height between the current Gulf Station and the Ski Instructors of America.
Yep.
And Lincoln Avenue at that corner has a rise to go up. How are you going to, I guess, level are you going to put a retaining wall in, or how is that all going to be leveled out?
At this point, we're going to grade the site out, so it doesn't appear we need a retaining wall, but we are still looking into that.
Okay,
Our
so,
next submit will have additional information regarding that.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
RJ, you kind of reviewed that, did you not, on the heights? Could you kind
I did.
of talk to Mark?
Tyler said there is, if you go from Central, they're grading the site downward. Right now, it's pretty flat, right at the Gulf, where the Gulf Station is. But here, they're grading downwards towards their building. You know, the grade's gonna run kind of from.
It looks like to be 303 all the way around.
Pardon me?
It looks to be 303 all the way around.
Oh, you're looking at the existing plan.
No, the grading plan right now. S4?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, yeah, it looks to be 303. Well, approximate all the way around. I mean, 305, 306, different.
I mean, it's the proposed grades are coming down, right?
Oh, yeah, they're coming down, absolutely, yeah.
Right.
No, that's fine.
Oh,
No,
my point is, so when you get to the rear of the building there, they're only, like you said, it's like 2 feet above the jump grade.
But I think Mr. Mark's comment was, take that big hump out of there because it's kind of a jump. It's kind of like a steep slope.
Yeah. So it'll be a pretty mild slope behind the building to the neighbor.
Okay, I mean, I'm more concerned about the neighbor, and if it gets,
Right.
all rainwater flows off into the neighbor, they ain't gonna be happy.
Well, that was one of my prior comments, right? They need to look at that and make sure that we're not doing that. And they did a pretty good job of it towards I'm going to call it the front half of the site. If you're looking at it from Lincoln Avenue, it's just that I'm going to call the back corner there. They got to look at some more.
Thank you.
Yeah, they do grade down. It's 1, 2, 3, almost 4 feet, I think, when we first come up of Central, right, RJ?
Yeah, roughly the building's about 3 feet lower than Central, I think. It's very hard for me to read these numbers on this.
Yeah,
plan.
so we got a 303 and a 306. Yeah, that's 2.5, 3 feet. Yes. Good. All right. Good call, Mark.
I go past it every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Anything else, Mark? John?
no, thank you.
Yeah, I got a number of questions here. I'm going to assume that you're very familiar with the Creighton Manning traffic report. Is that a bad assumption?
That's correct. They're on. Mark Nolde is from Creighton Manning is on the call with us as well to address any traffic related questions.
All right, so a general question I have is they make statements that they were providing input into the sim traffic simulation software. What data does the software require? Where was the data obtained from and what specific results were taken from the software program to provide conclusions in a study. The reason I'm asking this is because simulation softwares, regardless of whatever they're for, are only a function of the inputs you put in, garbage in, garbage out. So the question I have is, what inputs went in? Where did they come from to help you draw the conclusions that you came to, since you're relying very heavily on this program to give you guidance for your site?
Yep, sure. The program or the model was actually taken from a larger model that looks at the entire Central Ave corridor that was done for traffic signal timing for the entire corridor. We then went out and got traffic turning movement counts from a company that looks at cell phone records, because we can't go out and do traffic counts right now because of COVID. Obviously, the volumes are different now than they would be during normal times. So we're able to go back and use this company. They were able to go back and look at data pre-COVID to get turning movement counts out there. And that was compared to historical traffic counts in the area that were, maybe 5 years ago. So we were comfortable with that the turning movement counts that we're actually counting every vehicle during the AM peak hour and every vehicle during the PM peak hour. So we're comfortable with the data that's going into the models in terms of traffic turning movement counts and traffic counts. We also counted the existing driveways to the Gulf Station as well. So we have an idea of how traffic is currently operating at the Gulf Station. And the traffic model is then developed based, using the existing model that was, developed for New York State DOT. We added the driveways associated with the traffic, or associated with the gas station into that model. And then we can compare existing conditions to what was observed in the field to make sure that queuing was consistent with what was observed and delay was consistent with what was observed during existing conditions. And once we were able to calibrate that existing condition, then we have that sort of background to know that, okay, our build condition should be consistent with what's going to happen in the future after we add some traffic into the site. And we generate traffic based on a review of other similar land uses. They're called, super convenience markets, and it's based on the size of the store. And we use a manual called the trip generation manual, and that gives us an idea of how many trips the store will generate. We also use that information to determine how many trips are going to be new trips to the store and trips that are already on the existing roadway. And that again is based on observations at numerous other existing convenience markets. So all the data, you're right, is theoretical, but it's all based on real world data. And it's also based on data that we observed at these intersections. And based on that, we were able to determine if a vehicle is experiencing X amount of delay today, they'll experience maybe overall 4 seconds of additional delay at that signalized intersection. And the driveways will operate adequately during peak times. We did note that the one driveway on the right in, right out, vehicles exiting the site will most likely have to rely on some courtesy gaps during peak times, just because, even though we move the driveways or the driveways are located as far away from the signal as possible, the queuing on Central Ave is such that it will extend past the driveway. So when Central Ave turns red, well, just like you have any corner lot, most times drivers will provide us a courtesy gap to get a vehicle out. So that one driveway will rely on some courtesy gaps during peak times. But again, that was observed during the model and what you observed during existing conditions. So those are some of the numbers that go into the model. And like I said, the model was developed, it's actually a model of the entire corridor of all the intersections, and understanding that all those intersections are timed with a certain traffic signal progression, if you will. So all that's built into the model. So it's not just a snapshot in time of looking at one intersection. And again, that's another reason why we use the sim traffic simulation assessment, because it does give you an idea of how the signal interacts with the driveways all at once. So we're not just looking at the driveway in a vacuum, on Lincoln, not the driveway in a vacuum on Central. We wanted to know how the signal would impact entering and exiting traffic at the proposed Stewart. So those are some of the data points that went into the model and some of the results that we had seen. And like I said, we did calibrate it based on what we saw. And what we had seen in the past, because we had looked at this intersection maybe 5 to 10 years ago as part of an older DOT project. So we did have some familiarity with it before as well.
Okay, so now next, you guys, I believe, did the Cumberland Farms site traffic. And how does the traffic data that you have used here for through traffic and bypass compare with that traffic? Because there's not a lot of major exits between Lincoln Avenue and the Cumberland Farm. And if I look back at the data, there seems to be an awful lot of a higher traffic flow along Central Avenue at that place than you have coming here at the Lincoln Avenue site in your statistics. Can you comment on that?
Not off the top of my head. I did not work on that one personally, so I don't have any background knowledge on that. I would have to go back and pull that and do a comparison, but we can definitely do that.
Yeah, because I looked at the Cumberland Farm data as a basis for seeing how your numbers came up here, and there was a significant difference. Moving on from there, you have a Stewart site at Lansing and Central, and you also have a Stewart's at the corner of Bly Road and Route 7. The Stewart's at Bly Road and Route 7 has a similar operation, which got a fairly large store and number of pumps. How does this site compare with the Stewart's at Bly Road and 7? Can you comment on that, or are you unfamiliar with that site?
I generally know those stores, but I don't know the size of the stores themselves. I don't know how many pumps there are. I mean, typically,
well, there are 6 pumps at the Bly Route 7.
Generally, the trip generation estimate is based on the size of the convenience market, because that sort of drives, some of the newer trips, bringing in customers for, ice cream and milk and whatnot on top of the gas. So generally, the size of the store is used to estimate trip generation. So I would have to compare the size of that store to give you a good comparison. But
that would be beneficial. I go by that store quite frequently, and I see the traffic flow and the problems they have on that site, particularly with the parking and the pump usage and things. And that's got Route 7, which is a little less traveled, at least from my observations, than Central Avenue. And the Bly Road is not as well traveled as the Lincoln Avenue. So I'd like to see, get some size or perspective and things along those lines as to that, because I'm concerned having 8 pumps here may be more than the site can handle based upon what I've seen over there. The second thing I have is that with the Stewart's at Lansing Lane and Central Avenue, the traffic they have there, I'm wondering if you guys can comment on whether or not you plan on closing that store once you get this one open.
That would be a
Which location are you speaking of?
The one on Lansing and Central, which is about maybe 3/4 of a mile west of your proposed
Just
site.
west.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. So we own the building. We have tenants in there. So ultimately, we'll have to see how the stores react. Our initial plan was to leave them both open. But if this shop gets open, and we may close it and keep it as a rental, or move district staff over there. But we're still evaluating that at this time.
Okay, so the problem I see with the site at Lansing and Central is with the deliveries of all of your suppliers, your Pepsi, your Fry Hoppers, any of your beer trucks. They use Lansing Lane for their parking. And I look at the site that you have now proposed, and I'm not sure you're going to end up in the same situation, because if you've got cars parked all around the front, and you've got cars accessing the pumps, then there's not going to be any place for you to have your deliveries on your site. So I'm concerned that they're going to end up using Lincoln as a parking space for their deliveries. And in that regard, I would suggest maybe you cut down to 6 pumps instead of 8 pumps to provide a place for these guys not to end up parking on Lincoln. I'm not sure you're going to be able to comment on that, but I want you to take that into consideration because it's the only reason we don't have a lot of accidents on Lansing is because the people there are so familiar with it. You have to stop when you're making a right turn off of Central if the car's parked there because you got queues backed up because of the light, and it's a very slow light because it's not a well used. It's got a 2 or 3 minute time frame a lot of times. So you run the risk of having rear ends on people that stop before making the turn. And I'm afraid you may run into the same situation on Lincoln if you don't have enough site storage for your delivery trucks. So that's a comment.
Tyler, could you speak on how deliveries you envision them working
Yes.
at the site on Lincoln?
Yeah, couple things there, absolutely. So in terms of Frito-Lay and Coca-Cola and some other suppliers we have, so the majority of our products all come from our warehouse in Greenfield. We actually, which is somewhat new, is that some of the suppliers are actually like Coca-Cola and some other outside vendors are actually delivering to our warehouse in Greenfield, and we're delivering it on our own to help alleviate that, and it saves time for everyone. In terms of deliveries, they're on every 2 to 3 days roughly. We can control what time of day they come because there are drivers, they work for stores, they're employees, so we can control that. So that being said, in terms of delivery wise, we're looking at the furthest west of the property near where the dumpster enclosure is. There's a side door just near the back of the storage area where our plan is to have our vehicles park over there and deliver on the side at that point. Over near, do you see the ice chest label on the?
Yep.
On the
Yeah, I see where it
Yeah, we
is.
see
So,
it.
so
Yep.
they're gonna have to back into there.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just want to keep that in mind. Now, has your study taken into account, has the traffic study taken into account the limitations that are on Lincoln Avenue between 4 and 6 p.m. Weekdays?
What limitations are those?
Well, there's no through traffic Monday through Friday from Washington Avenue to Central Avenue along that access road. And at the same time, people can't make a right out to go down there between 4 and 6 from your site. So they're going to be queuing up a little more on the Lincoln Avenue site to get out to Central. To have to get over to Washington Avenue.
John, they can take a right out and go down.
You can go right out. Yeah,
Just can't come the other way.
correct. You can keep going down Lincoln all the way to Washington Ave Extension.
Oh, okay. I thought it was both ways that they had those
No.
restrictions.
No,
One way.
Just
one
one
way.
The other thing in terms of backup on Lincoln Avenue, that's probably not in your study is the increased traffic for Little League Babe Ruth,
Mhm.
Tuesday nights in the park. You know, that's when Little League gets out at like 8 o'clock on a June night, traffic backs up on Lincoln Avenue, down past Ken Jack.
Yep, it's that's unavoidable. It's
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
that's the same thing we have over at the Cumberland Farm site where it backs up along there too. There's not much you can do about that. And I assume I didn't see anything about school bus traffic entering and leaving Parkwood during peak AM hours.
nobody's going to school anymore. You don't have to wear the school buses. Jeez.
Oh, so we're going to be here forever like this, Peter? I don't think so.
No, I think so. No. Okay. Sorry, John. I didn't mean to. Go ahead.
So I'm just questioning, I didn't see any note about that for the morning traffic for your turning radius and stuff during peak with the buses and things? Is that somewhere buried in there that I couldn't differentiate?
no, but a bus turning radius to get into Stewart's?
No, just the cross traffic from Parkwood with the buses leaving and the buses entering, you know, the traffic count for that intersection?
Right. Any buses would have been counted along within the turning movement count. So, and I don't think we're really impacting turns in and out of Parkwood. If anything, we're minimizing some of the conflict on Central Ave by eliminating the full access driveways on Central and consolidating them into one. But I don't think this store will have any real impact to the turning movements in and out of Parkwood, which would impact buses.
Okay, and then I guess I have a question, and this is based upon observational. As I said, I use the Lancey Lane to get out to the light. The Stewarts that are Lancey and Central, that the majority of the traffic there appears to be people going to and from work to stop off for coffee and breakfast and things like that. So I guess my question is, I would look those as primary purpose trips as opposed to pass-through trips. But I guess I don't understand the difference between the two from your statistics that say you're going to have X percentage of traffic will be pass-through and Y percentage will be direct traffic. So how do you distinguish what's a direct traffic, as though people are leaving their house, you're going to buy milk at Stewart's, versus the people that are going to stop off there on the way home to get gas and a lottery ticket? How do you differentiate that in your traffic counts?
The primary counts or the primary trips are those, like you said, are someone that, you know, it's dinner time and they realize they want a gallon of ice cream and they go to the store and then they come back home. That's a primary trip where it's the only trip they make is to go to and from Stewart's. A pass-by trip would be as if you're going to work, and you're already on Central Ave, you make a right turn into the site, you get your coffee, and then make a right turn out of the site. So you're not a new trip on Central Ave. You're already there. You're just making a different movement on Central Ave. So you're not adding more traffic to the background traffic network. Where a primary trip would be that person may not have gone to get ice cream at 4:30 in the afternoon from their house to make that one singular trip. So
right. So how did you differentiate that when you did your percentage split based upon the simulation results that you got? How did you determine that for this Stewart's you'd have that percentage of direct trips versus that percentage of pass-through trips?
So for industry standards, there is a manual called the ITE Trip Generation Handbook, and they look
I'm familiar with all of that.
Based on those numbers, they indicate that traffic that goes to a convenience market with gas, about 60 to 65% of the patrons are passed by. They're already on the existing network, and the other 40 to 35% are primary trips, just going there for a specific item to get, like I went to a Stewart's this past weekend to get some firewood, and that was the only reason why I left my house. So I would have been a primary trip, and I wouldn't have done that, on any normal day, but I went to Stewart's for that firewood. But if I was going to get a pizza and I stopped off at the Stewart's that's across the street, that would have been a pass by, because I was already going to get the pizza, but I stopped and got gas on the way to do it. So that's a pass by. So based on interviews that people do with people entering and exiting gas stations, they've determined that about 60 to 65% of them are pass by trips. And that's been accepted by DOT and other municipalities all over New York.
Okay, but we don't have any local statistics about, say, the Stewart's at Lancey and Central, or the Cumberland Farms it's at along Central, or the Stewart's that lie and Route 7 that are more case specific for the area that we're in. You don't have any of that data?
We do not, no.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, I think you touched upon this, and I don't know what the answer is to it, but I see it a lot of places, like the mobile station that we have along Central. Is how are you going to accommodate the fact that sometimes people that stop at the red light and people want to leave Stewart's to make a right? How are you going to accommodate a backup on your site? What is the site capable of handling for queuing on your site for those people that can't get out to make a right? What can you handle as a maximum number of cars?
I would have to I would have to put an engineering scale onto the site map to tell you that. I don't know that off the top of my head, but that's.
I mean, the only thing I'm worried about is flow on the site with the number of pumps you proposed. That if you get 2 or 3 or 4 cars that want to make that right out of there, and the people only let 1 car out, you're stuck there for a whole turning, a whole light situation, and it becomes very cumbersome for the site.
Understood. So if you look at the number of trips that we had estimate, exiting making that right turn, it's about 45 to 50 right turns. So if you break that down over the course of an hour, that's about 1 right every 72 to 80 seconds, over a minute. So generally someone will typically find a gap over the course of a minute. So it just gives you a sense of scale of how many right turns it is over the course of an hour. It's about 1 a minute, actually a little bit more than 1 a minute. So someone would have to be sitting there to get 4 or 5 cars queued there. They'd have to really come in rapid succession to exit, to make that right turn, rather than be, generally you see the traffic entering and exiting a gas station is spread out over the course of the hour pretty evenly. You don't get that rush in for 15 minutes and then the site is dead. It's pretty consistent. So you'd anticipate those 45 to 50 cars to be generally spaced out over the course of the hour, and you're looking at 1 right turn every minute or more. So you wouldn't anticipate a real big backup, because the cycle of the signal cycle adjacent to the site will cycle through probably every 2 minutes. So maybe you get 1 or 2 cars in queue, but you probably wouldn't expect 5 or 6. But I don't know that off the top of my head in terms of how many the site could accommodate without putting a scale onto it.
All right. Well, that's okay. I mean,
John.
it's not, it's more
John.
your problem, not ours.
John.
Yes,
John,
Chris.
on this queuing up onto the site, I think you really got to look at, we're talking about taking rights, knowing the site myself. I believe that I see more people going on to Lincoln Avenue to take a right than queuing up to take those rights out for waiting for someone to allow them to enter. So I think that's a big part of that site queuing. So for Mark and them when looking at this design, I think that's major on that queuing. I do it all the time myself, is to take Lincoln as opposed to trying to take that right and waiting for the graces of God out on that road. So
Chris, this is Danny Judge. Chris, are we restricting a left in for traffic going west on Central Avenue like we did on Cumberland Farms and Verizon?
you are by the layout, Dan. And as we well know, the one
Human nature.
down on Wolf Road and Sand Creek does not work very well. But I had this conversation with RJ, and we kind of looked at this one. It is restricted, and it's a much tougher left to make on this one because you're crossing a turning lane going into Parkwood and the traffic that's going on. So they're kind of queuing up the Parkwood even when the traffic's moving. So that left is would be a real challenge, I think. So I think we're going to see a whole lot less.
Do we want to put, like we did at Cumberland Farms and we do at Verizon, have them put no left signs? In other words, restrict it and have any traffic coming in through Central?
I believe that's on the site plan already.
Dan, the DOT is going to require all those signs.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just so you know, when those driveways were counted, very few people were doing that now. Just like Chairman said, that it's a very difficult move. So people know to not even try it. We only observed a very, very minor amount of people trying the existing left turn because they can do it now. But we felt that a full access driveway there was not appropriate and recommended the right in, right out.
They'll go down Lincoln and then they'll jump in.
Yeah.
Right.
So John, hopefully you got
Yeah, that's fine.
John, hopefully you got the majority of the questions. I'd like
Yeah,
to move on to Peter.
I'm covered. I'm good.
Okay,
for now.
Peter.
Man, I have to wake up. Okay. No, I don't have any major questions. John covered the ones that I was talking about.
Yep.
I like that the entrance is a little farther down on Lincoln and it's a little wider, just for the sake of getting in and out. And I'm good for now. RJ's comment with the parking 31 and 30, I think it was. You may have people that want to have like an ATV trailer with a truck be able to park there because someone owns one, and that would be a nice place to park and then get your stuff. So
Are you talking about it being marked or just being
marked a little longer, or yeah, just marked, and I just go over two lots. But I don't know if we need to take out, put out more green. If we need more green space, fine. But that's a nice place to probably pull in, and I can go get my coffee. And
all right. Anything else?
no, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. A lot of the comments that I would have had obviously have been covered through here. Tyler, I have a one thing going through it. It hasn't had a lot of, it's kind of been touched on a little bit, but on the landscaping itself.
Yes.
We've had similar corners very close up to not Cumberland Farms, but very close to it. What I see on the landscaping, and again, the last thing I want to be doing is hiding your facility. Okay. So, but I would love to see some height being put into the landscaping. I looked at the Central Avenue and the the hydrangeas that they're shown on there seem to be the highest vegetation I see being used. Now I really, on the way to Northway, I can't remember what the intersection is. There's a Stewart's up there that does have these hydrangeas, and it's a magnificent thing in the fall to see that site. But on this site, I think by the entrance on Lincoln and maybe the other corner that you have where we're doing our right in, I'd like to see some vegetation that gets some height. I do not want to see any pine trees and blocking visibility, so forth. To be something with a trunk that's high enough that it does not break views for vehicles and so forth. But on the landscaping, I'd like you to take a look at it and try to get some vegetation of heights somewhere around it. Having said that, we're back on this 30 and 31 parking space. We really do get really tight in the as we come off Central Avenue. In the beginning of that, it widens up later. I don't know what the answer is yet on this, but I can see the concern we're having with how close you are that you can't do any vegetation and so forth, even on that space. So I would just request to take a look at that and review that on your plan. I guess this is coming in as almost a sketch application. Victor, RJ, you have anything to add?
I have a comment. How far back does the commercial A district go here?
I believe it's 400, correct, RJ?
You know what? I have to double check the zoning map. That's the typical distance.
Yep.
But both these properties are commercially zoned.
So I always like to see the zoning on the maps, on the site plans, and how far back it goes and where the residential starts. Because as we all know, we've got certain limitations and restrictions when a commercial zone abuts up to a residential, and it doesn't show on this plan. I don't see it. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. Tyler, even if it's farther back, you can put the note on there to show how far back your site is and how much further back that zoning line would be. So it's a good comment to have on there. So
we can do that.
Chris, I got one more comment on the landscaping.
Yep.
They've got a lot of nice color in there for
Yep.
late spring, summer, early fall. They got nothing for the winter. You might want to consider some color, like some hollies or something like that, to at least color up the site, or something that takes us through the winter and early early spring when stuff is just starting to come out.
Yeah, Tyler, I kind of agree with John on this. It appeared to be everything we had on there disappears in the winter.
White pine.
Losing all its leaves and so on and so forth. So a point I think well taken. So you, again, take a look at that.
Yeah, we'll take-
The zoning boundary is 400 feet back from Central Avenue.
Okay, but I'd like to see it on a plan.
No, I'm just confirming it. Yep.
Thanks, RJ. All right. I think we've covered a lot. Again, as a sketch, I think you know our concerns are. I guess I'll just make one more comment. We've had sites that we've looked at where we've tried to eliminate a right in and right out. And that in this case, again would be we'd leave the right in, take the right out. I don't think the flow, and personally, I don't think the flow on this site would work without having the right out and the Lincoln Avenue. So I just want to make mention to it. So if anybody's thinking about it, my opinion, I think we have to keep that right in, right out on Central. So
RJ, I think RJ had asked that question when he sent it to Creighton Manning, and they wrote a separate package addressing as to why they thought that might not work. I don't know if that went around to everybody or if you saw that, Chris, or not. I don't know if RJ responded to their comments or not as to why they thought the restriction of the right out wouldn't work.
John, this is Ron. No, I didn't respond to them. I did see it. I didn't take any exception to it. Again, that was a very preliminary comment that went back to the initial sketch plans that Chris and I had looked at with Tyler.
Yep. They were really in our first meetings, John, and that did come out. And since then, again, looking at it, that's my thoughts on it. So, which is only one board member, guys. So, all right. Anybody else? Okay. Tyler and Mark, you can go back and look at things that were talked about tonight and get back to us on submissions. One more thing, RJ and Victor, when would we want to do this special permit?
I would suggest we do the special permit once the site plan is pretty much established, and obviously you'll have your hearing, and you can, if the board wants to, obviously you can act on both at the same time.
Yeah, a hearing and the site.
You only have 62 days though to do the special permit approval.
Yeah,
correct. I agree with Ron.
So, all right. Okay, Tyler and Mark, I think we're gonna move on to the next project.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right,
guys.
good night,
Appreciate it.
gentlemen.
Okay, 1814 Central Avenue, former Office Max. The applicant here.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Paul Goldman, I'm representing the applicant. This is the Office Max space in the Coles Plaza on Central Avenue. And as you know, this space is currently vacant. It's approximately 22,975 square foot of space. Those tenants are quite difficult in the market. We are asking for a site plan amendment and to add approximately 5,775 square feet of space. The user is a specialty grocer, and I've got Steve Vukas with us who can talk about any technical issues. Obviously, you know, with an open space, and I'm currently trying to deal with the 40,000 square foot space up in Clifton Park with a former Toys R Us space. You know, it's quite challenging in these environments. So we're excited about the opportunity, but this is the minimum requirement from our potential user. Steve, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, great. So I'll turn it over to you with any technical stuff and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so as mentioned, we have a large vacant retail space here, and a grocer is interested. And what they only need to do is make it a little bit bigger, as Paul had mentioned. So we're on the southwest side of Central Ave on at 1814 Central Avenue. The portion of the building that we're affecting is the portion closest to Central Avenue, and we're extending to the east a little bit there, and just a little bit to the north, about 12, 13 feet or so. We have traffic. We'll just reroute the drive that's going around that building for truck maneuvers, and that's why it's a little wide. Right behind it, so a truck can make like a left turn, but we're managing to stay out of the residential buffer that's to the north. There is requirements for green space of 20% minimum for the site. Right now, it's about 24%. We're only going to reduce it by 1%, so we'll stay within that criteria. Parking is existing non-conforming. We're only reducing by 7 spaces overall, but it's very well overparked, this whole plaza as a whole. Setbacks, we're within the setbacks for the front and side yard setbacks. And I think that pretty much covers it from a zoning perspective and site plan layout. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Again, myself and RJ have talked with this site before. RJ, so you're being familiar with it. Would you like to kind of outline some things, comments too, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest comment that came up was just how we're going to be losing some green space on that back right corner in that area as you're looking at the plan. There's some more landscaping in that area. The proposed plan is going to pretty much eliminate all that and give a pretty good clear view to Central Avenue to the back of that. I'll call it the service drive behind the building. The only other, I think, Chris, significant issue was that there was dedicated parking for the Trustco Bank on this site. And I forgot how many spaces it was, whether it was 9 or something like that. But they were the parking spaces that you can see shown as the existing ones there in the sketch they submitted. So they would need to be replaced somehow. And Chris, I think that was probably the biggest thing. That was the landscaping. What's the building going to look like from Central? How do you screen it? Those types of things.
Yep. Does anybody on the applicants want to respond to those? If not, I'll go on to the other board. But if you want to respond on those were kind of issues that RJ's kind of highlighted, the items that I would have been asking to be looked at or addressed, because we will lose all the vegetation between that back corner, the site where the driveway is being expanded, and looking past our Knighton's classic car area there. So again, so anything comments from the developer or the applicants or the board? I'll open it up.
Good evening. This is Pablo Maderos for the property owner. We'll propose whatever type of screening you might see fit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
A fence or what have you.
There's not much space at RJ, right? We get pretty close to the property line.
It does. It does get very close to the property line.
And is I guess back to the developer on that parking spaces, was there an easement or agreement on that parking from it was the bank, I believe, at the time, or was it even all the way back to Starbucks? Which one had the right of way for parking on that site?
I believe it was for Starbucks.
Starbucks. And is that a signed written agreement type of thing, or?
I'm off the top of my head. I'm not sure. We're going to look into it, but it's something that I'm sure we could work out with Trustco.
Yeah. And Victor, you'll be looking at that when they figure out where it
Yes.
stands. So.
Yeah, as I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pablo, is the existing Trustco Bank property owned by your company?
It is.
Okay, so you have a long-term lease with Trustco?
That's correct.
Okay. I thought I remember that going through when we were working on the application when it went from the Starbucks to the Trustco. Okay.
Yeah, Trustco did all the work to do the conversion, but they have a ground lease.
Okay.
Looking at the site plan, it's something that's just hitting me tonight. What type of finish are we looking at on the structure itself? This new wall that's being expanded out that to me is going to be more visible. So what are we looking at on that, on the structure itself?
Frankly, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot more visible, but we're really just proposing split face block.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Anybody? Okay. Other board members? You have
I had a question. Just looking at, we had a fire back there one time and it was kind of a tight squeeze, and this looks to be even tighter. So I just would like potentially, to look at that and actually get it over to the chief and have him review that for access, since it is a large building and the fire load probably could be something that's a little interesting to deal with.
I concur. The RJ, then looking at this, would the angle of that access road, can you not go parallel with the building? Can you angle it more and get closer to Trustco and actually make that radius better?
I mean, yeah, that would make the radius better. You just have to watch out for, it kind of screws out the intersection where it comes into the drive. I'm going to call it the driveway in front of the shopping center and the entry.
Okay.
They're kind of aligned.
Yep.
And it looks like that was pretty much maintained, with the change. So could you do it? You could probably move it over. I mean, it would make the back corner turn better.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is set up to turn again. I haven't reviewed this and put it on a template or anything, but I'm assuming this was designed for, a full length tractor trailer.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And if that fits the full length tractor trailer, that'd probably be fine. And then, yeah, I'm sure we're gonna look at the hydrant plan and make sure we have adequate flow of.
And what distance does the from the building to the curb, I guess we're going to be calling it that, and I'm assuming that's going to be a full curb to keep people from hitting the building. What kind of space do we have in there?
Behind the building,
From curbing to the building wall.
about 25 feet or so.
No, I'm talking about the close curb, the first curb next to the building. Couple feet?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, about 2-3 feet.
Yeah. All right.
That's it from me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other board members have comments at the time? I know, again, this is the first sketch plan that we're taking a look at, which again, I'm sure we'd like to review and see if we have any additional suggestions that we could have for this. But anybody Victor,
If we're
RJ.
losing some landscaping back there, is there any place else on the site that the applicant's willing to spruce up since it's very sparse, except along the new Carter Road access?
I believe they would, they have entertained that they could look around the site, John, so it's a good comment. And really, it would be submitted with the full site plan, obviously, when it came before us, so.
That's correct.
Okay.
I mean, one of the things I considered is, I mean, the site is definitely got a lot of parking, and the question is, does it need all the parking? And how much parking can the applicant survive without? I don't know what's in your leases and everything else and those requirements, but I think maybe that's one approach to take. Just kind of jumping on John's comment is, if you don't really need it all, can we do something creative with it and spruce up the site there a little bit?
Yeah, but then would they have to go back to the zoning board for another variance if they take away the parking? Is that another burden?
No,
No.
parking falls underneath us, John. It's a multi-use site.
Okay.
So the parking would be beneath us. And Victor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
No, you're right. Right. It's within our purview and our authority to modify it.
In terms of the parking with Starbucks, just to answer the question, I'm looking at the title report. Doesn't appear to be a restriction on the lease with Trusco, so they don't have lien rights or a declaration covering the parking. Okay.
Yeah, but the issue with that is that there's not enough parking on the Trusco site to meet the code. And so the parking spaces on this site were basically there to make up for that.
There is a declaration where it's, for parking, and as you know, there's plenty of parking out. I've never had a problem with, accessing this property. So.
No. It's just a question of, but the planning commission's looking at it, instead of being by the building, now it's going to be, way off yonder.
Yep.
So, but anyway, so this is obviously a sketch plan review. So, I mean, anything the commission thoughts, I hate it. And we can make it work, we think. I mean, those are the kind of comments would be appropriate here. Obviously not that this would be it, but the purpose of the sketch plan meeting is to provide just initial feedback. So the applicant can decide whether they want to progress this or not.
Can I ask a question of the property owner? Is this, and obviously it's council, is this the minimum amount of square footage that's required by your new proposed tenant?
Yes.
Okay.
So we, basically, if we don't get this, and if we don't get this, then we probably don't have a lease. So that's, and obviously these leases are hard to come by. I think I mentioned that, but Victor, I just want to be straight up with you.
Okay, I appreciate that because I think the board's looking at this as a, yay, nay, this is what we like, this is what we don't like. I wanted the board to understand that it's not going to get any smaller because if it does, there's no tenant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I kind of believe in our first conversation that we had with the developer, Victor, RJ and I, that they couldn't quite get up to the numbers that the grocer would want to have, but they're doing their best to get in that neighborhood, I guess.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
I guess what we'll be doing is we take this in as sketch. I'd like to give the board members some time to take a look at the site. If any recommendations, I assume that the developers are on a real tight schedule trying to get this put together.
That is correct.
So I'd like us to take a look at it. We get the responses, go out to the site and try and get comments back as prudently as we can.
Greatly appreciate it.
Chris, if people could send me the comments, I'll just kind of lump them all together and send them off.
Would the developer and the building owner have a problem with us going over there and eyeballing it? Being on your property?
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Try to buy something.
Well, you have to buy.
I'm gonna go to the grocery store that's not there, so I'll put a
Just
sticker on
don't
it.
go to Office Max, okay?
Go down to the Kohl's. They'll appreciate it.
So, all right, if nobody has anything else on this, let's again prudently move along if we can on this so we can work with the site.
Do we
Well,
want
thank
to-
you. Yeah,
Thank
do
you
we
all very
know, do we know when we would be available to, I guess the question is, can we be on the next meeting,
Well,
if
actually,
that's possible?
actually, Paul, I'm sorry, let me just jump in. I guess the question was, I was gonna ask is, when can we expect comments from the commission? Again, this is sketch plan, it's a sketch plan review, so these are very, broad comments. They don't have to be specific, but just, could we say a week? And then if I get everybody's comments within a week, I will, like I said, I'll kind of just lump them all together and get them off to the developer so they can understand what it is the commission may or may not hear.
Thank
I can have something to you by the end of the weekend.
What I'd like to state is that we will be also looking at what our agenda is for the next meeting. I would hope that we could have comments to have you move on to the next meeting, but when we look at our agenda and how many people are on it, so forth, we will let you know right away pretty quickly on whether this we can get it in and get the comments. But again, if everybody could get the comments looking at this in the next week, I would appreciate that.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Good night, John.
Okay, very
Have a good
good.
night. Thank you.
Okay, for the board members, we keep having this where we can't get together and kick plans around. It makes it tougher. But any additional comments on any of the projects?
I have a comment.
Yep.
As the board members know, some months ago, CT Mail came before us with the Huffman's Car Wash proposal in the rear, seeking to expand upon their, I'm going to say parking, not parking, but I think driveway. Ron, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I believe what happened is that when we looked at it, it was encroaching within the residential zone, which meant that they would have needed a use variance. I explained to the owner's representative, which is Frank Palumbo, as well as the board, that use variances are very, very difficult to achieve. And the owner of the property, the Hoffman family, they hired an attorney who spoke to me last week. And I suggested that they seek the possibility of a zone change back there, or at least a portion of the property. As we all know, it's a piece of property that's been owned by the Hoffman, but it's a split zone. And in the back of that area, it becomes residential, and it butts up to residential homes. Okay, so the owner's attorney, who I spoke with, I said, listen, you can try your hand at trying to get a use variance, but he realizes that in both of our opinions, it would be a futile attempt under the law. So I think what they want to do is probably sit down with maybe Ron and Chairman Dennis, I think they put together a proposal that they'd like to float by you two. I don't know that I need to get involved, but I'm just saying that because I believe that over the last few days, I've got some kind of a communication from the attorney saying, is it possible? So I just wanted to mention that that's still out there. It's still being considered. And they've taken my suggestion that probably the only way to to advance this would be to see if a zoning change is possible. So just throwing that out there that Ron, I don't know if anyone's been in touch with you or Chris.
Not yet, no.
Who's the
Okay.
attorney, Victor? Who's the attorney?
I'm trying to think of his name. He's from Glens Falls. He does lectures on this stuff. He does pretty much the same thing.
Hafner?
What'd you say?
Is it Hafner?
No. I forget his name.
All right, no problem. Just shoot me an email.
On that site, though, I think when they came back in front of us and showed us what was existing, or what they had now, we came to the conclusion that they had already violated their original site.
Yep.
And we had questions about whether or not they were still in compliance. And they disappeared because they didn't want to have to push that issue that they had already gone ahead and made changes that were unapproved.
I don't know the full story behind that. I don't think they disappeared because they didn't want to adhere to this. Because John, they were talking to me, their lawyers, and I shouldn't say their lawyers. It was Frank Palumbo that was communicating back and forth with me when he was exploring the idea of should we go for a variance or not. And I just said, listen, here's the criteria under the law. Good luck if you want to. And I did bring up that other issue that you just talked about. So obviously, if they want to advance this, that this is going to have to be considered and addressed. So that's it. I'm trying to find the name of that lawyer, Ron. I'll get it to you, Bob.
Just shoot me an email.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hoffman's contacted me last week. They still have that empty tenant spot somewhere in that site. I think they came a couple months ago. They're looking for a tenant change, so that might
Who's that?
spark conversation.
Yeah. Who's that, Alex?
Hoffman's has like some second story empty tenant space that they're coming through for a change of occupancy.
You mean at their main building there?
As far as I understand, yes.
Okay.
That's news to me.
That's new.
Unless I'm confused, but I thought it was Hoffman's.
They do have a second floor office space. Now, whether they rent that or not, I don't know, but they do have second floor up.
I believe that's what they were talking about.
And also, there are 3 bays for car washing. Is only 2 bays now. They shut down the
Third one?
easterly one.
Which one?
When we have that automatic exterior only, you go to the 3rd bay and just go through.
Right. Yep.
No, the automatic one next to the Jiffy Lube,
Oh,
where there was 3, whatever, what's that, Pine Street or whatever it is.
So what's happened? Things getting tight and we're looking to rent out space in there or what?
Well, they're just using it for storage because I got stuck there one day in the wash and the guy I said, what happened to the other bay? And he said, well, they shut it down. They took all the equipment out and they're just using it for storage. So they only have the 2 automatic car wash bays there now.
All right.
Everybody's buying the other one.
Okay, Alex, what do we have submitted? Do we have anything
As
for?
of today, I don't, excuse me. I have a tenant change for one of Elliott Feynman's buildings.
Yep.
So that's all I have submitted for March 2nd at this point.
All right. So we really seem to have open space if we do get reviewed and we kind of take a look at this Gold Plaza and so forth. So if we can get comments off to RJ, that would
I would expect the Paula will come back because all they need is to clean up a site plan.
Yep. Yep. If they have their submission, and hopefully that would be a quick submission if they do get that, John. I'm hoping, but all right. One other thing, and RJ, this is for you to write down the number. Scott Bennett, the guy that has the cigar store. If you remember, I think he's talked to us once before about what the building used to be, the Army Reserve and whatever down on right across from the bowling alley. on Central. I believe he owns the 2 buildings. And he had requested, talked with the mayor and requested that maybe RJ and myself would talk to him to get him in a direction of what he can and can't do on the site. And this, so RJ, the number is 518, of course, 598-8764.
Okay.
And you can kind of touch base, see with what he's looking at, and then back to me.
Yep.
Now, having said that, looking at this, I just want to state that if anybody, any of the members have interest in going to these and stepping into some of these meetings, I'm certainly not trying to run village and the planning on my own. So again, if you have interest in these things, that's why I like to bring them up. Or if you like us going in there and hammering these guys first and bringing them back to us, either way, I'm good with it. So, but if you do have a real interest in one of these and want to be attending, John's attended them before, Kenny's attended some before. So I lay it out there, and you can decide if you want to take some of your free time in the middle of the day like we do.
I don't have any of that. Some people do, not me.
If I know ahead of time, I can plan it. I have a little flexibility now.
Well, that
Well,
might be bad or good.
Just so everyone knows, though, for legal purposes, you can't have a
no quorum.
No quorum, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And then actually, just to add to that, and I know it's not for legal purposes, but more for, I guess, for productivity purposes. I mean, it's probably not, other than Chris, you know, 1, maybe 2 other members there at the most.
You get too many people.
Otherwise, it gets to be too much. And we're just there trying to point them down the road with pretty much what we won't.
Yeah. And I will say every meeting is I'm 1 of 7, so you guys are not getting the final picture. So each time we meet.
Ron, by the way, I just sent you the lawyer's name. It's Ron. It's Mark Schachner.
It is Mark Schachner. I said Hafner, right? Mark.
Yeah. Well, you were close.
That's who I meant.
What does Minette want to do with that corner, with those 2 buildings where the reserve was and the?
Don't know.
Where
I have no
isn't that where
idea.
Craig
Tom
Apple
just
had his
yeah, that's the
re-election
one.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think he knows. I think he's looking at to see what can you do on the site. So it's not there's not a given proposal for it. So it's the typical thing. Patty, the mayor, likes always to pass these on to say, okay, you talk to him.
The guys rolling the ball alley.
No, it's gonna be.
Mr. Chairman, there's somebody in the second building, right? I mean, I think that's leased out, not the one that Craig used.
We had approved something for that. I can't remember if they are or not, but we did approve somebody in that space.
Yeah,
I think it might be a hair salon.
something like that. It's either that or one of those eyebrow, some kind of.
That could be.
It's a hair salon or a car dealer.
Car dealer, hair salon.
A little small for a car dealer.
So,
John, speaking of that, have we heard back from the barber shop?
No.
Not that I know of.
Not that I have.
No.
Are they open?
It'd be nice to get the corners, spruced up and clean.
Yep. Yeah. So John,
Yes, Chris.
I appreciate, and you did do a good job on the traffic study, but I was watching a lot of these guys doze off. So, but I'm glad you did what you did.
Yeah, but I had sent that out to everybody, asking if they had any questions.
All right.
We always lay it on you. So, but so
we knew it was coming.
Yep.
Well, actually, John, it's a good question. So do you want me to send those off to him? I can, basically forward your email.
No, because I didn't ask all of them because I felt that some of them, as we got going, he kind of would have answered the same thing. I don't think you need to send them off to them. They got the pretty good gist of what we need to do.
Okay. All right.
You know, we'll let's see what happens, see where it goes. You know, there's still a lot of work to be done with that.
All right, no problem.
Cool.
All right, unless there's anything else, thank everybody for
Does
zooming
anybody
in.
want, excuse me,
I'll
does
make a
anybody
motion.
want to set something up to go up there to the old Office Max building?
Jim, what are you doing Saturday?
I'm good for Saturday morning,
You want to do 10?
Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, Saturday morning?
Yeah, 10 Saturday morning, right in front of the building.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
One more thing I want to get back to ask Victor and RJ again. Jim and I still had problems with the Nash subdivision write-up and description and the map and everything. Can you guys go back and look at that? Because I think the record needs to be reflected as to what's really going on there.
I thought it was pretty accurate, John, and I will tell you in the dark here that it was, in my view, I had a lot of confusion with it, and I worked with Alex and I worked with Ron to figure it out. There was a lot of stuff going on with that one. So anyway.
I mean, the numbers didn't even add up. You know, how much acres was coming from one place and going to the next, and the sum wasn't even close. So.
All right.
Well, they all own it, so it's all within the family.
I have a motion to end the meeting.
Before
Make
we
the
do-
motion.
Kenny
I already
and
made the
Jim,
motion.
Second.
Ken, Jim.
Yep.
Yes.
I may have something where I can't make it Saturday, but if I can, it would be not until 10:30.
We can do 10:30.
I can do 10:30.
Oh, but I'm not guaranteed, but again, if I can, have to be then, so.
Well, we'll just figure we'll slough you off.
Very good.
All right, so let's
All right.
let's plan
So,
10:30.
Everybody approve the adjourning the meeting?
Affirmative.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Good night,
meeting time.
everybody.
I enjoyed spending Mardi Gras with you ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
wait
go
a
have
minute.
one.
No, I can't do it. No, Alex is on the ladies are.
That's that
Everybody
house
stay
crowd
safe.
now.
Hi, everybody.